Welcome everyone to the City of Bend Accessibility and Advisory Committee, a hybrid meeting being held on December 19th, 2024 is called to order at 1:05. As a reminder to all members throughout the meeting, please announce your name before making comments. We appreciate that you share your self-description during roll call in order to provide information for the blind or visually impaired people present and online, and so that we can ensure an equitable experience. And we'll go ahead and begin roll call from the committee members. We want to start for those who are in chambers.
I'll start. This is Amanda Hamer. I'm wearing reading glasses and a blue sweatshirt. My hair's partially up, and I'm here in council chambers.
Thanks. This is Carl Burnett. He, him. I am here in council chambers today wearing blue and white striped sweater, glasses, and a green ball cap.
Hi, this is John Halen, he, him. I am on site in council chambers wearing a green collared short sleeve shirt.
Hi, this is Stephanie Etzman, she, her, in council chambers, and I have long curly brown hair, and I'm wearing a black sweater dress with a gray sweater over it.
Hi, I'm Derek Hoffbauer, he, him pronouns, in person here at council chambers, wearing a green sweater today for the holidays. Thank you.
And I'm Liz Woodfin, Chair of COBAC. I am a blonde-haired, blue-eyed white woman, and I'm wearing a tan coat with a Queen, the band t-shirt. And I go by she, her pronouns. For those that are online, members of COBAC, please introduce yourself.
This is Aaron Rivers. I use he, him pronouns. I have short brown hair. I'm attending online. I have a gray hoodie and headphones on today.
I'm Corey Sparks. I use she, her pronouns. I have light brown hair that's down. It's a big white headphones on with some plants in the background of my screen.
I'm Liz Deetha Martin. I'm online. I'm outside in the sunshine right now, taking care of myself. I'm a white woman and I'm wearing a bright pink corduroy jacket.
Welcome, everyone. And
should I introduce myself?
Sorry, Whitney.
Okay. This is Whitney Bennett, she, her. I am a white woman. I am coming online, and my hair is tied up today. It's sandy blonde, and I'm wearing a green fleece.
Thank you, everyone. I would also like our new and alternate members who officially begin their work with COBAC starting January to introduce themselves as well, and we'll begin with those who are in council chambers.
My name is Ian Isaacson. I pronouns are he, him. I'm here in council chambers. I have thinning brown short hair and a plaid shirt.
My name is Andrew Caruana. I'm attending here in council chambers. I'm wearing brownish eyeglasses. I have short wavy blonde hair. I'm wearing a blue shirt with a white collar and watch with a purple band.
Any new or alternate members online?
This is Elisa McCrae. She, her. I'm a white woman with blonde hair. I'm attending online today and I'm wearing a brown sweater.
We have one attendee. Let's see if she wants to.
Hey, sorry about that. Hi, I'm Mariah. I am a white woman with dark brown hair wearing a white blouse today. I'm currently at work and I might not be able to actually pitch in too much, but I am definitely all ears today.
Thank you, everyone. There's a quote here from one of the new members that said, "I'll be at the COBAC meeting and to get the lay of the land. So I'm ready to hit the ground running in the new year. And we're so excited that you're here. Thank you all for coming. We welcome Ian, Andrew, Mariah, and Elisa today. Our next agenda item is the land acknowledgement. And do we have a volunteer to read that? Donna.
We would like to acknowledge that the beautiful land known as Bend, Oregon, north of the Columbia River, is the original homeland of the Confederated Tribes of Warm Springs. The Confederated Tribes ceded this land in the Treaty of 1855 while retaining regular and customary hunting, fishing, and gathering rights. The Wanalama, Warm Springs, Wasco, and Northern Paiute people inhabited this area in certain seasonal times that clearly established their presence. It is also important to note that the Klamath Trail ran north through this region to the Great Celilo Falls trading grounds. This trade route expanded the impact of commerce between tribal nations. We acknowledge and thank the original stewards of this land. It is our hope that guests continue to honor and care for this land.
Thank you, John. We'll go ahead and move to approve the minutes from our November 21st meeting. Are there any corrections to the draft minutes?
Derek, I'll move to approve.
Do we have a second?
I'll second. This is Carl.
Thank you both. All right. We want to take a vote. Please raise your hand or say aye. Looks like everybody online and everybody in chambers, we have a unanimous vote. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Lisa for the administration of COBAC public comment.
Hi, my name is Lisa and I go by she, her, and right now there are no attendees. Are there any that okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
It looks like we have, is it James? James Teeter here to read a letter for public comments.
James, if we could just ask you just to hold for a moment while Andres brings a microphone. Thank you for joining us today. And ahead of James's comment, we just want to let you know that you should have a digital copy in your emails. And then also there are some copies available to follow along with that have been provided ahead of time and printed. Thanks, James.
Thank you. Yes, my name is James. I'm not sick. I just have a newborn at home. That's the mask. I'll go ahead and introduce myself how you did. I'm James Teeter. I'm in my 30s. I'm a white male, 6'4". I have a black hoodie on that has a picture of a driver that says they came out of nowhere. And I'm a structural engineer, well-versed in the building development world. And I've been advocating for bike infrastructure as a tool for more equitable and environmentally friendly cities for some time now. I'm coming to ask you to raise concerns that I believe you may share with me. I have family members that have mental, physical disabilities, so these issues are near and dear to my heart. I have been granted to go beyond my 2 minutes, but if you need to tell me to wrap it up, please do. I have been advocating for roadway designers to pull the bike lane out of the street and put it adjacent to the sidewalk or next to the sidewalk for some time now. And it's very exciting to me to see the design of the Franklin corridor and some of our other projects like Olney, Butler Market. A lot of our new projects are going to be designed this way. But I do have large accessibility concerns with the way that our roadway designers are implementing this. I do recognize that the federal documents, the PROAG and the MUTCD, that guide accessibility guidelines, they're very explicit about them being minimums, and they do defer to the authority having jurisdiction, i.e. the city of Bend, to apply their own standards, which are in excess of the minimums. And so I provided a letter for you. I don't mean to put words in your mouth, but I do just want to make it easier on you, and it's just a template for you to use, revise, discuss. But I do want to go through the 7 items that I have concerns with. And this is specifically about Franklin, but it could be expanded to all the projects that our city is designing. So tactile ground surface indicators, the rough yellow pads that you see at crosswalks, these should be located on each side of the bike lane when it's pulled out of the street. And I do consider a bike lane a path of travel, just like a vehicle lane. So if you're going to move from the sidewalk into the bike lane, you need to be very aware that you're moving into a space, especially now with e-bikes, that you could get hit and hurt. And with refuge locations, these islands in the middle of streets are very nice to give people a reprieve when they're crossing along a street. I believe that the same theory should be applied between bike lanes and roadways. So you cross the bike lane, you have a refuge. You cross one vehicle lane, you have a refuge, etc. The raised crossing is one. I've provided a picture as well, but the raised crossing is basically a continuation of a sidewalk, and in this case, the bike lane across a local street. So if we think about Franklin being the priority road, I believe that Franklin, any user on Franklin should have priority, whether you're driving, you're in the bus, you're walking, you're biking, that Franklin has the priority. Vehicles should not have the priority. If you're coming from 2nd Street, you should not have priority over people walking and biking along Franklin. So the raised crossing just continues the sidewalk and the bike lane at an elevated level. It requires that drivers go up and over these facilities, which by design makes drivers aware that they're entering a space that is not for them to just blow through. TGSI ground surface indicator alignment and design. I think the Australian codes are actually way more progressive, and I think Ben should look to them. And that the TGSI, I was just biking here just now looking at a freshly installed one that had the little dots. They're all installed at a 45-degree angle to the path of travel, which is just wrong. Like these are directional. The little dots should point you in the direction that you're supposed to walk. And furthermore, the width of them should extend the entire width of the accessible path of travel, and the other side of the roadway should match this. So when you approach these, you can feel and you can see exactly how wide the accessible path is, and it points you perpendicular in a straight line to the other side. So you know exactly where you're going. The alignment of the accessible pathway I just described with the HSI alignment. Oh no, sorry, this one. So the accessible path is sometimes defined as the building line, but sometimes defined as just the side of the sidewalk and in the path that you can follow along the right of way. And when you come to an intersection, I believe that building line or that edge of the sidewalk should point you directly to the crossing so that there's no confusion about where to go to cross when you are crossing the street. The bike lane and sidewalk delineation, I believe that there should be clear contrast, light and dark, or a yellow line, or a surface, a sloped surface that you can feel that clearly shows anyone this is the bike lane and this is the sidewalk, because sometimes they will be right next to each other, and it's very important that it's just visually obvious that they're different spaces to be in. Consistency in pathway design, I've seen in the Franklin design multiple instances in the Bend bikeway designs that will have on one side of an intersection a separated bike lane and sidewalk, and on the other side a shared use path. And this is just inconsistent, and it creates confusion, and our intersections are not the place to create confusion. I think sometimes accessibility focuses on physical accessibility, but there are people that it's not totally obvious to everyone what's going on. An intersection is a dangerous place, and we need to revere that and give that the thought, and either have it be a shared use path on both sides or separate spaces on both sides, but we can't be mixing them in the middle of an intersection. So these are my concerns. I just drafted a letter for you. I'm happy to come back at your next meeting and talk more if anyone wants to reach out to me personally, you can reach out to John or the head of the committee. They have my contact info. I'd be happy to talk to anyone. And I appreciate you giving me more than 2 minutes. Thank you for all the work.
Thank you,
This
James.
is Liz Whitman. Thank you, James, so much for being here and bringing this to our attention. We really appreciate that. And we will consider reviewing this more in detail at our January meeting. Thank you.
I also would like to thank you for attending and making your comments and having very specific comments.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to move on to our next agenda item, which is new COBAC member and alternates acknowledgement. We're so thrilled that Ian, Andrew, Mariah, and Lisa for joining us today, and we'd like to offer you an opportunity to maybe introduce yourself a little more fully. Yeah, so I will let you all take that away.
I'll kick it off. My name is Ian Isaacson. I'm a landscape architect for Ben Park and Rec in my day job. I'm also a member of COCA along with Stephanie, and so and Derek. And so both professionally and privately, I'm engaged on these sort of topics on a daily basis. Seeing the roadway design and things like that, that's the type of thing that I deal with every single day. So I'm excited to offer my knowledge and my experience on these topics to the board, and look forward to the next couple of years.
Thank you for being here.
This is Andrew Caruana speaking. Outside of COVAC, my day job is that I'm in the graduate counseling program at OSU Cascades. So becoming a behavioral health counselor. And then I'm also, I serve on the Oregon Disabilities Commission and do some other kind of various accessibility advisory type roles, both with like legislation, and also I do some work with like helping people get accommodations in collegiate settings. And then I would say, I guess, like passion areas for me in terms of disability justice and accessibility is probably structural accessibility, and then also transport's a pretty big one for me as well. So thanks for having me, and I'm happy to be here.
Thank you for being here. Mariah or Elisa?
I'm Lisa. I work at an architecture firm here in Bend. And I've been doing that for about 13, coming up on 13 years in January. And I have MS, so I live with a disability every day.
Thank you for being here.
Mariah?
Hi. So this is my first COBAC meeting, and I'm very happy to be here. Outside of this realm, I work in senior living. Right now, I am currently working in an assisted living and a memory care, kind of serving our senior community in Bend. And of course, a large population of what I deal with professionally have some sort of either physical or mental handicap. And just seeing how our residents are getting around the city of Bend, and what I have noticed just when I'm assisting them out on the town. I have just also realized, that there is definitely a need to work on this type of thing in our community. So that has largely led me to want to apply and join in this board.
Thank you, Mariah. Thank all of you for joining us in this work. Meaningful, and we're glad to have you a part of COBAC. All right, I'm gonna pass. I'm gonna have Cassandra facilitate the next discussion about the 2025 COBAC strategic work plan.
Thank you so much, Liz. This is Cassandra. So for the next, I think it's 35 minutes that we have on the agenda, we have the opportunity to review subgroup, if anyone has met, if anyone has additional initiatives that they like for consideration. Essentially, it's just a time to put everything on the table, discuss what people are excited about, the kinds of topics that we've previously discussed and that have been in our initiatives that we'd like to see through to 2025. But what are people excited about? And then in January, when the new members have an opportunity to weigh in and vote, we will then, as a committee, be able to formulate and finalize that plan. So if that works for everyone, it can just help move us through the different groups. I think that, Carl, I know that in the last meeting you raised the really good consideration that potentially the current subgroups that are in play, which are improving transportation and infrastructure, creating an accessible community, and creating a culture of accessibility within the city of Bend, may not serve in the future in terms of the way that they're currently structured. So this group is open to and of the availability to be able to modify these groups or subgroups, potentially to create a subcommittee, which would bring with it a more structure and the need to have public record laws and meeting laws followed more strictly than the subgroup format that we currently implement would have. So there's an opportunity for us to have updates from each of the captains, if there are, from these three groups. And then from there, for the total of the body to discuss what you're excited about in 2025, what initiatives from 2024 were not completed that you'd like to see carry forward. And then in January, we'll finalize any of that. So, and I'm open to input and just here to help facilitate that conversation. And if it works for you, we'll just move first to the Improving Transportation and Infrastructure group, if anyone would like to provide an update. And I'd also like to preface this by saying that, you know, I know that we've had 2 meetings in November and December that have been in unusual circumstances and dates, given the holidays and where COBAC typically falls. And so our time for being able to meet has been limited. So completely fine if you have no updates, but it's a time for you to give and provide updates to your fellow members if you do have any. So with that, turn it over to that first group.
This is Carl. Yeah, we didn't meet since the last time. I do think that we can look at our goals from 2024 and determine whether we need to roll any of them or any parts of them over to the next year. No, Whitney, Derek, is anything to add?
Yeah, Whitney, I'll jump in. This is Derek, in council chambers. You know, I thought the one very successful event we had was the walking tour that we did along Galveston. And we had the idea of doing, you know, at least one of those or probably just one of those a year. So, you know, potentially putting that on the calendar for a fall event. I think those are successful, and maybe working to have a little more action items around outcomes and strategies for engagement and what we're trying to accomplish with those kind of demonstration projects. So that would be something that I would support moving forward. And I know we'd also talked about attending some events. There's a Breaking Barriers conference, which I just got an invite to participate in, and that's April 22nd. And I didn't know, Cassandra, can you remind me what committee that fell under? Were we combining?
I believe Stephanie, Amanda,
Okay.
and Liz are working on that, but that brings to light the very real possibility that this current structure of subgroups may not serve the future work plan. And so maybe if you want to instead create some sort of an outline that would support like folks who are interested in facilitating or creating or tabling at Breaking Barriers conference, that can become its own kind of creating an accessible community, because I think it, as you all have very clearly outlined, it's an amazing opportunity to create awareness of the work that you do, and also to invite members of the public, like James today, to be able to bring matters to the committee for your thoughts and your feedback. So, yeah.
Yeah, and this is Derek again, potentially within that subgroup, looking to support the city and the Welcoming Week events that are happening. And just wanted to note that Hawthorne Station just got a major design improvement to its parking lot. So we'd be open to doing some kind of event there and showcasing the new amenities. It has better ADA accessibility, pedestrian access, signage, things like that. So Andres, if you want to focus on doing something in the fall or the summer on there, we'd be happy to participate. So just wanting to get a little more involved in welcoming week. I think we tabled the first year and we didn't do anything last year. So just looking forward to participating. Thanks.
This is Carl again. One thing I would love to see the committee be more involved in 2025 is the infrastructure part of this subgroup's goal. I think involvement in projects exactly like what James was just talking about would be a really good role for us because there's always a lot of big things going on lately in the city of Bend as far as street design. And I feel fortunate that accessibility does seem to be a concern for the designers of those projects. But I think that we could take an active role in volunteering to advise those groups and projects about accessibility issues. I'm keeping that intentionally vague about, what our involvement would be. But as someone who's not a traffic designer myself, but I'm definitely like a fan of the work that they do. I would love to see us get more into that stuff.
This is Whitney. I just want to second that I agree about carrying our goals forward. I mean, specifically the sidewalk event and doing something again. One of the things that Commute Options is working on is going to be a route planning project with the city of Bend, where we're actually doing something for older adults to get them to specific locations and calling out specific infrastructure. So I think it would be interesting to tie it into that kind of event again if we do that, because we'll be focusing on making it accessible for our older travelers by foot. So I'd like to see that stay. And I also want to just I don't think we fully have come to closure on our first goal of accessible airport transportation. So I don't want that one to fall off. And I'm not sure because I was not at the last meeting where it is, but I think we can still continue working on that. And and then the third point to what Carl was saying, I completely agree about being involved in infrastructure, but I wonder the difference between us as a subcommittee being involved versus all of COBAC, because there's so many things that come up when talking about the intersections in that way. So those are my thoughts on that.
Thank you for that, Whitney. This is Cassandra. So from improving transportation and infrastructure, there's a lot on the table. Obviously with subgroups, they cannot bring recommendations to the whole, but they have put tremendous thought into these initiatives. Does the collective of COBAC have any input or thoughts on these proposed potential initiatives? Just open it up to the group outside of just those members in that specific subgroup.
This is Amanda. It does really seem to me, I love Carl's idea of kind of combining all of this into more of a, what do you call it, subcommittee, so that we maybe could come back to the whole group and provide recommendations. Also, it seems like a subcommittee could meet and save a lot of time that we're using right now to talk about this stuff and come back with some action steps for the group as a whole. Those are my thoughts. I think moving into 2025, consolidating these subgroups into a subcommittee seems like a good idea.
Cassandra, would you mind explaining for the new members about that distinction?
We actually have Ian Lighthizer here.
Oh,
Put you on
nice.
the spot, but I would love just to have you join us if you wouldn't mind.
I'm happy to. I am because I was looking at something else, gonna have to ask that the question.
Just effectively the difference between a subgroup and a subcommittee in the public records law that follows.
Yeah, and for the record, I'm Ian Lighthizer with the city attorney's office. I'm wearing a brown hoodie, short brown hair, and according to Kodak member Halen, looked like I just rolled out of bed. So I think that was off the record earlier, but I've now entered it. Okay, so nomenclature isn't that important. Subgroup, subcommittee. First thought is don't get too hung up on what you're calling something. But what the public meetings law, and this is state law, says is that what the law defines as a governing body of a public body, I'll get to what that is subject to the public meetings law. When we think of governing body for the city of Bend, we think of the city council. That's kind of an obvious one. They are sort of the highest level governing bodies, but groups that make recommendations to the city council on policy or other issues are also subject to the public meetings law. Subcommittees, subgroups, working groups of those groups that maybe take recommendations and put them up to the group that they're a part of, they're also subject to the public meetings law. This group, KOBAC, is not a council advisory body. This advises staff, but I believe we have determined that KOBAC is still subject to the public meetings law, or we at least treat it that way. To the extent we are doing that, if there is a subgroup or a subcommittee, some task force, working group, whatever you call it, of this body, meaning some subset of you that is going to do some work, look into something, and then bring information or recommendation back to the group as a whole, they're also going to be considered subject to the public meetings law, which means the meetings have to be publicly noticed. There are accessibility requirements, all the things that I sometimes call it the rigmarole, and I don't mean to minimize it, but all the requirements that the public meetings law puts on meetings of this group and other groups. And the idea is that this kind of deliberation and decision-making on things that matter to the public and are within the jurisdiction of what the city does should be open to the public, so the public can see it in sort of, I guess, lowercase a accessible ways and other ways. And we don't want smoke-filled backroom decision-making. And that doesn't literally happen anymore, but that's what the public meetings law is designed to prevent. So people can see not just the decision-making, but the thinking and deliberation and discussion that leads to decision. So this is a group that, even though it is technically, I think, considered a group that is advisory to staff, I believe in the KOBAC charter, we treat the meetings as public meetings. Is that correct? Okay. So the key distinction really when you're thinking about a subgroup or a subcommittee or a working group or a task force or whatever you call it, is what is that group going to do? And if that group is going to be sent off to look into something, dig into something, think about something, and then come back to the larger group and maybe make some recommendations based on what that group has dug into, looked at, thought about, information that's been collected. The advice is almost always going to be treat that subgroup as a governing body of a public body subject to the public meetings law. So again, it's just part of the transparency obligation that government has, and it can make things a little more unwieldy and maybe a little bit less convenient to just send people off and do stuff. But it's so the community government is doing can have access to the deliberation and thinking and decision making. So it is, I'll be honest, it can be a bit of a drag for group members because it makes it harder to sort of in a nimble and convenient way do the work and get together, but it's kind of the trade-off of the public sector is we generally have to do it that way. Does that help?
Yes, thank you. And so does one clarifying question, this is Carl. I'm sure we've talked about this before, but does the public have to be able to participate in and interact with? No, they just have to have access to.
Correct. The maxim that I sometimes use, I didn't coin this myself, but myself and others use is that the public meetings law and its requirements and principles, they're sort of an access baseline requirement, but not an obligation to allow participation. It essentially means somebody can tune in and watch either remotely now or in person, but it's doesn't require whatever the body is to allow even public comment. There are other things, there could be a body could have rules, or there could be some statutory requirement that if you're doing a certain thing, you have to have a public hearing, and that means people can offer their input, but it doesn't come from the public meetings law. The public meetings law is about making things sort of viewable and accessible, but it doesn't require the body to allow participation.
Does it require the public to be able to see and hear the proceedings live in real time, or would it be,
Yes.
okay?
Yes,
So it wouldn't be sufficient just to publish minutes or a video
correct.
of the meeting?
Correct. There's also a requirement that a record be kept of the meeting, but that's separate from the participation requirement and the participation, the sort of real-time access element.
And
Whitney?
sorry. Go ahead.
Quick, also another clarifying question, just to kind of so if we're not making recommendations, then is that the one thing that makes it not subject to the public meeting law?
Yes, so when you have a subcommittee, a work group, whatever you call it, if you can truly say whatever they are doing is not going to involve any decision-making or recommendations up to the bigger group, there is an argument that that group is not covered or subject to the public meetings law. That is, I will say, rarely the case, because most of the time, well, what exactly are they doing then? So I think technically speaking, yes, that is a way that a subcommittee or subgroup might not be subject to the public meetings law, but it's almost always the case, just because the nature of the work you're trying to do, that you're creating this group and sending them off and saying, okay, come back and tell us what you found. In some type of recommendation is almost always inherent in that, even if it's implicit. So I think that is a technical distinction that is rarely one we can actually sort of rely on. And then you get to the point where you're like, well, why don't we just make this a public meeting anyway? I mean, it is deliberation or thinking, eventual decision-making or recommendations that should be open to the public anyway. So it feels like, to me, when this comes up, and not with this group, but with other groups, I've essentially said, you're getting to the point where you're working too hard to make this not a public meeting. And that's probably not a good look for government most of the time.
And is there like a minimum number of some kind of subgroup that's not associated with the quorum of the whole group?
Yeah. And fair question, and I avoided bringing this up because it can get a little complicated. But how many members is this? The full complement of KOBAC? Okay, so 11. So unless otherwise specified, a majority of the members of the group is going to be considered a quorum. So with KOBAC, it's 6, unless in the charter document it says it's some higher number. I'll use city council as an example. A quorum of our 7-member city council is 4. So I'll just use that 7-member body as an example. That means with a 7-member body, 2 or 3 of them, 2 or 3 members of the body can get together and talk about business really to their heart's content anytime they want, without sort of coming into the scope of the public meetings law. The public meetings law really applies to a quorum of whatever the body is. So let's say there's 11 on KOBAC, and let's say that a quorum is 6. If it's not otherwise specified, it's going to be 6. Up to 5 folks could get together and talk about KOBAC or potential KOBAC business. I generally discourage that. I think the closer you get to a quorum, kind of the weirder it gets, and this is not a legal term, but the worse a look it is, right? If a quorum of the group is 6, technically you could say, well, 5 of you could get together and talk about KOBAC business, and it wouldn't be subject to the public meetings law. I don't think that's great. This is just intuitive on my part, but a few of you, sure. This is an issue. One of you up on the dais might be especially familiar with the way this works with a 3-member public body, such as the county commission. 2 of them can't get together outside of a public meeting and talk about county business. One of them can sit there and talk to themselves all day long, and it's probably happened. So you're always counting when you're dealing with a governing body of a public body. You're always counting. I mean, if I'm in a room and there's 3 council members and it's not a public meeting. It doesn't need to be, and man, if a fourth council member walks in, myself and other city staff are like, whoa, whoa, whoa. One of you has to leave. So you're always counting. I would try to not walk right up to that quorum line if you can avoid it. The farther away from it, the better it is.
No other.
Most eloquent I've ever heard anyone speak about public meeting laws ever, so thank you for that.
Yeah, that's
cannot
super
believe-
helpful.
I cannot believe that.
Somebody just got out of bed.
It must be the first time.
I wonder if, because smoking's banned indoors, if that smoke-filled back room example is kind of go the way of the dodo.
I personally think at least in Oregon, and I don't know what other states are doing. I think Oregon's, I think public meetings law needs to catch up. I mean, these transparency or sort of sunshine laws were designed when literally these literal smoke-filled back room was the concern. We now have social media, and I think arguably a bunch of elected officials debating each other through a comment thread on Instagram or Facebook is arguably it's pretty accessible and out there in the open, right? But the law doesn't really allow for it. So I think the law probably has to catch up with the way people debate and talk now, but it kind of hasn't yet, at least not really.
Thank you for letting us put you on the spot.
Sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry if I didn't hear the question. It was
No.
Oh, it's,
back row.
it's
No, I appreciate
tremendously
it.
helpful. And I think that does give you all something to contemplate before January, to think about how formal you'd like to have those groups, and specifically in regard to your capacity. That would mean another meeting that we would be putting in scheduling, and that folks would need to attend without that kind of flexibility that potentially a couple of members getting together to talk through things would afford you all. So with that, if there's nothing else from the first group, I'd like to move for the sake of time into the second group. But I don't want to quash any conversation in case anyone has a last call on that first item. Okay, on to creating an accessible community. Any updates, any thoughts, anything you'd like to carry forward from 2024 into 2025, or ideas for the new work plan?
This is John. Not particularly. We did not meet. Well, one thing I'd like to mention is with infrastructure and transportation being at the forefront of everyone's conversation, as well as housing. I think it would be great in 2025 for KOBAC to take a more proactive role as far as street infrastructure, as James so eloquently provided info on, as well as I'm sure most of you have heard about the UGB expansion going in on the south side of town, where there's going to be deed restricted affordable housing. I think it goes back to our desire when we've been talking to the affordable housing city employees about trying to make sure that some of the units that are included in that might be accessible. And accessible means different things to different, abilities, disabilities. But I would really like, housing seems to be at the forefront. So I think pushing for more accessible dwellings and units near public transportation would be really in this committee's interest in creating an accessible community.
Thank you, John. Anyone else from creating an accessible community group want to jump in or add anything? Okay, and I know also from 2024, one of the initiatives was, John, not to put you back on the spot, but I know there was deep focus on a barbecue and some boiled hot dogs and other passion projects that you have. I don't want to, I know that in lieu of a barbecue for KOBAC this year, we opted to have the equity tent at City Fest, where KOBAC members wonderfully tabled and were part of community and creating awareness around what you all do. But if that's something that the committee is interested in, again, happy to help support and plan that as well.
Yeah, this is John. My main thing is just getting the word out to the community that we exist and that we're a resource, and whatever incarnation or that takes is good in my book. So it doesn't necessarily need to be a boiled hot dog barbecue. It can be any number of things.
Sure, deep relief is washing over.
Don't knock until you tried it. Well, what they have at the ballparks.
Moving on, creating a culture of accessibility within the city of Bend. I know that your group gave a wonderfully rich overview in the last meeting. Is there anything you'd like to add or bring forward as we contemplate and put it all on the table for 2025?
Well, this is Stephanie. We obviously, we know we did not meet last month or after our last meeting. As we had outlined before, we were kind of on a slow roll, and then I feel like we're super energized with this revised goal list that we created. But I do think that it is worth revisiting, doing some combining of groups or work scope, such as, creating awareness within the city of Bend of COBAC and what we're doing. I think fits very well into creating a culture of accessibility. And as we consider the last two, and maybe our very last goal, which was attending the Breaking Barriers, which I think conference definitely kind of overflows into all of what COBAC does. Trying to figure out how to create some more, I felt really, I just felt really energized after our last meeting. I was super excited about some of the things that were discussed. And I really think that if we could find some money in a budget somewhere, or earmark some funds for creating some kind of rack card or some kind of publication for us to hand out at a Breaking Barriers conference if we were to host a table. And then also, it's like just a little one little, card that explains what COBAC does, what our goals are, and what kind of information we're looking to receive from the community. And then also, as we consider switching up the groups or doing some consolidation, what information how do we target Breaking Barriers, and what information do we want to glean from the community and the visitors to our booth? Keeping in mind that Breaking Barriers is a regional conference, and as I discussed last time, and with a lot of statewide participation too. So how do we drum down or narrow down what the information that we're trying to gather so that it's just really relevant to the city of Bend? So anyways, that's obviously a discussion for a group. And that's where I think if we were to combine, I just don't, I don't obviously have any answers on what that would look like, but it seems like there's just so much crossover in a lot of our goals. And I know that the three of us, Amanda and Liz, as we've met over the course of the last year, it really felt like creating a culture is really kind of supporting the other two work groups too. I mean, so much of what we do could really be in a supportive role because a culture is just so overarching. It's like, it's creating a change in the community. So anyway, that's the only thing I wanted to add. Liz, Amanda, do you?
No, totally. This is Amanda. I completely agree and feel like there could be more accomplished given a consolidation. Yeah. Some of these things that these committees have been working on for over like a year or two now could potentially, I feel like, be accomplished by the end of 2025, given consolidation and honed in, I'd like to call it like a task force,
And new, exciting, energized new
Right.
members. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful to have you all join us.
One other thing I did want to bring up, only because I think we may need to discuss it or figure out how to go about doing this, but with our very first goal of asking all COBAC members to participate in the trauma-informed trainings through the TIO website and have that complete by June 2025, we had discussed or proposed that we invite Jill Bowers to our January meeting. And so since that is next month and we're not going to be meeting again, we've got the holidays. Do we need to have a discussion on whether or not that's an appropriate thing to do? Put it on the agenda and then, or maybe table it for another month, but
Given the focus on the work plan, it might be appropriate to table for February or after, but why don't we offline and discuss her availability and also the timeline in terms of committee members being able to take the training ahead of the June deadline. So yeah, or goal, I should say. Liz, did you have anything to add to what Stephanie and Amanda have shared?
This is Liz, and I just have to say how grateful I am to have had the time to connect with both Stephanie and Amanda throughout these last 2 years and focusing on creating a culture of accessibility. And it's very exciting to kind of see these goals come to light or have more focused direction on these things. And so I just want to applaud both of you and thank you.
Yes, right back at
Yeah.
you.
I love the supportive nature of this group. Thank you. Also wanted to really thank you, this particular group. I think that the goals that you've proposed are really so structured and so clear. Like there's that SMART acronym of the, the specific, it's got deadlines, it's got very clear kind of attainable, measurable markers. And I think that that should serve as kind of a guiding factor for other groups. And also truly, we are also busy and you all serve in so many different capacities and different committees and organizations. It's an honest gut check and capacity check to say, like, does COBAC have the capacity to be able to say, you'll have the monthly meeting, potentially another subcommittee meeting, and then create and facilitate and organize all of these other goals, right? And so being as clear about deadlines and prioritization of said initiatives, I think is an important kind of check for all of us as well, and to see what we can accomplish next year. So any final thoughts about what we have in the strategic plan, and then I'll share kind of next steps and what we should expect come January. Okay. And so if folks do want to meet as groups, they're welcome to ahead of our January meeting, which is at the end of January, resume to the fourth Thursday of the month. However, based on what we've heard today, I will create just the totality of information from the 2024 work plan that has not yet been achieved. I will add anything that we've shared today, and then during the January meeting, you'll have a chance to reflect on that. We'll address also if potentially these subgroups no longer serve in their current capacity, and we'll discuss if we want to implement or create any other subcommittee that will be noticed as Ian had shared. So does that sound all right to all of you?
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Chair Woodfin.
Thank you. This is Liz Woodfin, and I'm just going to volley it back over to you to get our update and also a moment to thank Corey.
Wonderful. And just right before that, I'm happy to do that, but we could also have the COBAC member reflection.
Oh, yes,
as promised. Always December always brings in so many reflections of what 2024 was and what our vision and sparkling hope for the horizon of 2025 is. And so last month had asked you all to think about inaccessibility in your personal lives, in what you see in community, what's something in 2024 that brought you some measure of joy or excitement, or something you wanted to share, and then what are you excited about in 2025? And again, it can be in any part of your life, but it's one of those ways that you create that collegiality that I think this committee has. You all are so supportive of each other, of your ideas, of your visions, and you work together and with such exemplary flair and passion, and always like to provide you space to be able to share that. And I think that also helps to really align our vision as we move forward to what that 2025 goal is for COBAC. So Liz, I'll leave it to you to facilitate kind of the order of members being able to share.
This is Liz, and I think we could start with folks who are online to share.
This is Whitney. I could start that off if that works. Yeah, I just would reflect on the fact I feel like every year that I'm a part of this, it opens my eyes a lot. And so in the work that I do and thinking about route planning and feasibility for kind of now 8 through 80-year-olds and thinking about the accessibility piece has really influenced how I look at that, and everything that I look at now, whether it's the work that's involved with trying to create a safer environment for people walking and biking and all levels of abilities, and how I message that, and how we really offer education to students when we're talking about what it feels like to be a pedestrian. It's just been a part of it's really changed my whole way of speaking about it. And so I have a ton of gratitude for opening, like being kind of opened up to that. And I was really excited that we did like a tangible thing and had the event last spring. And I felt that it was good to have something in action. And I look forward to doing more of those events or whatever they can look like, but being present in the community and being involved and having those conversations to elevate the importance of this type of work and awareness. Thank you.
This is Liz Deetha Martin online. I'd like to sort of piggyback a little bit on what Whitney said. And, I was thinking about that walking event we did, walking, rolling event. And one of the things I loved about it was there were people from city council. There were, I had a bike. There was at least one person in a wheelchair, people walking, old, young, all kinds, everything going on. And it'd almost be fun to sort of like do another event like that and add a little structure and like, okay, now let's get somebody in a wheelchair, somebody with a cane, and somebody with a bike, like all trying to move on the same side of or just like, or seeing things from other perspectives. And that also harkens back to that time getting on the bus and being blindfolded, and then trying to navigate roundabouts while blindfolded. And I think just some more of that sharing, especially we have some new city council people, and might be nice to sort of pair up. But I could go on, but I'll stop there. And thanks for the opportunity to sort of think about what's going on and think about new ways to share Koback and our mission with people.
Thanks, Liz. Anyone else online want to chime in?
All right, this is Liz Woodbin. Let's go ahead and have folks who are in chamber share.
I was worried that was gonna start with me. I didn't really do my homework. So, I just want to say that, I mean, first of all, 2024 felt like a blur, to me, but, it's been, I've really appreciated the opportunity to serve on Koback and learn more about, what Koback does and what our goals are, and being part of this strategic planning process. And although it took our subgroup some time to pick up steam and really define some of our goals, I'm super excited about what 2025 holds for us. And expanding our collaboration with the rest of the group as a whole. And then also, I would really like to see expanded partnership between Koback and COCA. And obviously, as a co-chair of COCA, I think that we're going to also maybe be in a little bit of a transition too. But I do recognize that a lot of the direction from creating that collaboration probably falls on me, and I have not done it. So, but I think that that's an opportunity to really, especially when we consider doing an additional public awareness event such as the one that Derek and ODOT was also a part of that, wasn't it? Yeah. Did with the getting people out there to interact with intersections and stuff. I think that would be another, but that's a key example of something that we can partner with COCA on. Just knowing that COCA, I think with COCA, one of the suggestions is that we move it from Bend to Redmond. And so in that case, it wouldn't necessarily work to do that collaboration with COBAC because we're just so much more narrowly focused. But anyway, trying to expand some of that collaboration too would be something I'd like to see happen in 2025. And again, I just really appreciate being part of the committee.
Stephanie, just for clarification and the good of the group, could you discuss and just tell us what COCA stands for and the work that you all do?
So COCA is a much less formal group than COBAC. It stands for the Central Oregon Coalition on Access. And so, gosh, it started years and years ago. When I first started attending COCA meetings as a guest, it was still being chaired by Carol Fulkerson. And so, and it was a much better oiled machine when she was chairing the committee. But basically, the goal is to have individuals from the community who experience mobility or access challenges, but also department heads, city officials, county officials, city engineers from around the Central Oregon region to talk about where are barriers to access? What are some concerns that community members are seeing and how, and then also just exciting changes. I mean, Ian's been coming to those meetings for a long time and always has something really fun and exciting to present for Parks and Rec. And so, it's just learning about how we can make Central Oregon as a whole more accessible to the community members, because while we're making it more accessible for individuals who experience mobility or other challenges, it's also creating a more accessible community for all of us. I mean, I'd much rather walk on a sidewalk than out in the road, so it's just, it's really is creating a much more well, I guess accessible community. And so that's kind of what COCA is. And so I co-chair it with Kim Curley. And so it's, but like I said, we don't take minutes. We don't, it's just we don't have officers or a board. It's very much more loose, informal gathering. So.
Thank you for sharing.
Oh yeah, this is John Halen. I guess for me, it comes down to, I guess, in a way, empathy. Trying to put yourself in the shoes of someone that you're not in order to make better decisions. Because I think of all the things and impediments I run into because of factors in my life. Like, I want my kids to be able to bike across the city without getting hit by a car. Now, if I didn't have kids, I wouldn't think that. I'd be thinking, oh, how do I get across the city? And so I guess I just think about with our committee and all the stuff that we interact with, like how many more things do I have yet to learn about that are a problem, and how do I seek those out? How do I find those? How do I identify them? And how do I make this place a better place for everybody? And so I guess for me, I'm looking at 2025. I'm very excited because I just want to keep learning more. So.
Cool. This is Carl. Yeah, I'm inspired by John's involvement in all kinds of civic issues when he sees a problem or an injustice and wants to make it right. And I think it's a great example of following. I've enjoyed serving as the chair for this committee for the last year, and it's the first time I've ever done something like that. So thanks for bearing with me as I learned the ropes of that. And I'm proud that we were able to have a strategic plan and check off at least some of the items on there. I'm excited that we made some progress on my pet issue about accessibility of taxi service in Bend. At least we have some next steps there. Still my dream that anybody in any type of wheelchair should be able to hail a taxi, as the ADA says they should be able to here in Bend. And I'm also excited to let Liz and Derek take over and be the new leaders of this group and to continue to make contributions as a regular member.
This is Amanda. Thank you, Carl. I appreciate you and John and your leadership in the last year, and super excited that there's new leadership, because I think my reflection for 2024 is the growth of COBAC in membership, and also having Cassandra as our leader, I guess, overseer, sort of, supervisor, has been just a huge blessing. And I think that really made, I think, all the difference, because now we've got a committee that is diverse and vast and energized and inspired to do the work that we were originally set out to do. So super thrilled about 2024 and really excited about 2025. Thank you.
Yeah, hi everyone, this is Derek. I think the culmination for me in 2024 was the Joint Committee on Transportation coming to Bend, OSU Cascades, a lot of high level folks in the legislature, folks from all around the region, city officials, county commissioners, and we had a great turnout from a lot of our different advisory committees. A lot of people with disabilities coming and testifying in front of the Joint Committee about transportation issues, accessibility issues. We had Charlene from COCA. We had Jordan Oldie he's on a regional public transit advisory committee. He rides the buses every day. He's in a wheelchair. And just outpouring support. We even had a member from our Jefferson County Advisory Committee who has, he has autism, and he drove himself down. She just started driving like a year and a half ago. And I don't think has left mattress before, but it was that important to him to show up and, talk about investments in transportation infrastructure and the importance of accessibility and the decision-making process at the state level and the legislature. I also want to just honor Barb Campbell for, being on the committee and working with her for a number of years on transit-specific initiatives, and just her interest in the bike ped initiatives too, and design and infrastructure, and making sure that the city's doing the right thing when it comes to, how we expand as a city, how we accommodate for growth. I feel like the city, has a lot to do with how many people are living here now. And just applaud the city's efforts for working on things like, bicycle design improvements and accessibility improvements and sidewalks and things like that. So looking forward to working with our new members in 2025. And if you hear the word walking, rolling, tour, and park, you're probably going to lead some kind of tour. So just be
I won't run
prepared.
away. I won't run away. So.
And Ian's done a great job of talking about, accessibility and infrastructure. His role at Ben Park and Rec. So just appreciate everyone and look forward to kicking things off in 2025 as your vice chair. Thanks.
This is Liz Woodfin, and I just have to echo pretty much everything that all the members have said already. And I'm just so appreciative to be acting as chair, and we had really great leadership in John and Carl, and I'm grateful for you both. Yeah, I'm just looking forward to the new year and the initiatives and things that we'll accomplish. I believe in this group and encouraged. So thank you. I think we are running late on time. Is there anybody else that would like to share? All right, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Cassandra.
As unfortunately the news is here, Corey Sparks, just want to take a moment of deep gratitude. Corey has served 2 terms consecutively on COBAC, and take a moment to talk about the work that she has accomplished while serving. We have a quick request for one member of COBAC to be a representative at an upcoming advisory body summit meeting. And then I have just a brief gratitude. I think with that, we should be able to get back on schedule with our time. Corey, you know, I checked the LinkedIn for this picture, so it's up there in public record forever. Lovely presence. Corey has served on COBAC for 2 terms for a total of 6 years. We are so grateful for her leadership, which has included serving both as COBAC's chair and vice chair. Corey has been foundational member of COBAC and poured into this committee. We will miss you tremendously and wish you the very, very, very best of luck. Lisa compiled a list of the accomplishments that Corey has been a pivotal and crucial foundational part of, including the ODOT Highway 20 Greenwood project, proposed Wood River Village sidewalk exemption, Drake Park footbridge, ensuring Bend residents of all income levels have a place to call home, letter to the editor of the Winter Access Award, make business aware of the importance of snow removal, the Bend Sustainability Fund Advisory Committee, accessibility improvements to the Columbia Park footbridge, and currently working on with other COBAC members, taxi licensing as well. So Corey, we thank you so much and just so deeply grateful for your contributions over the past 6 years, which is no small thing. And we know you have gigantic milestones that you've shared with so many of us over the last few years, and wanted to open it up for an opportunity for any member of COBAC just to share gratitude to Corey, or Corey for you to say some inspiring departing words if you'd like to. Completely optional. I know today I'm just putting people on the spot, so apologies. But.
I'll go ahead and say things. Well, thank you very much. Oh my God, I can't believe it's been 6 years. Lisa, I think you were a little generous to me in my accomplishments, but appreciate that. I joined COBAC in 2018, as was mentioned, when I was diagnosed with epilepsy. So I was newly disabled and exploring all the world of accessibility. And I just learned a tremendous amount, and I made some wonderful friends. It was lovely to work with you, Lisa. It was, I was really sad during COVID that I didn't get to have snacks. The snacks that you the snacks that you bring every month. But yeah, I learned so much from you and I really appreciate you a lot. And Barb, big shout out to Barb, who has been such an incredible advocate for COBAC and accessibility in the city. Barb was always at the meetings, even when Bill Mosley was the liaison. He came for half of one meeting. So Barb's really the MVP, the all-star. I just learned so much about accessibility in the city, and I'm not hadn't been as involved over my last term. So I appreciate everybody for, I don't know. I just appreciate everybody basically. And it's been wild. So I've been just really grateful for COBAC all these years.
Thank you, Corey.
Thanks, Corey.
Any COBAC members wanted to say anything? The floor is yours.
Hi, this is Lisa. I just want to say thank you, Corey, for all you've done for COBAC. You brought a new light when you came in, and always a smiling face and always an empty tummy. No, but we appreciate all your work and all your effort that you brought and the different light that you put on accessibility. And, you know, with your being newly diagnosed, it does help because it'll help bring out other people. And you brought a side of accessibility and the need with your experience. So I really appreciate you. I really have missed you, and I'm so happy for you. And thank you. 6 years, you guys, 6 years. Thanks, Corey.
Thanks, Lisa.
Oops.
Thank you, Corey. We'll move on to a request. And so we have an invitation from the City Council and Advisory Body Summit to have one COBAC member join and represent. And it's an opportunity in an informal setting to mingle with council, to share top accomplishments from COBAC from 2024 and the top priorities for 2025. So we obviously know that capacity is always something to check into. So defer to either Chair Woodfin or Vice Chair Hoffbauer if you're interested in attending. However, I just wanted to open it up to folks to say it's January 14th from 4:30 to 6:30. And you all can discuss or define if this is an option for either leadership member or if a member from COBAC would like to attend. But we will strongly request that somebody be there to be able to share all of the accomplishments that you have had this last year. So anyone, Liz, Derek, anyone interested in attending, this is a time that would work for you, or should we open it up to a COBAC member for attendance?
I'm happy to attend.
Okay, great, wonderful. Thank you for that. And from there, I'm sure we'll look forward to in February, you could give us an update about what other committees, kind of what's on the radar. And I think I really appreciated, Stephanie, what you were saying too about kind of the intersectionality and the shared advocacy that COCA and COBAC do. And then also Human Rights and Equity Commission, I think is also a really nice opportunity to learn about the work that they're doing in that kind of shared space that you both have working in advocacy and equity and accessibility. Oh, and I'm just learning that we do not have to limit it to just one member, despite said language. We will open it up. So if other members are interested and want to attend, please email me and we will go from there. So apologies for the miscommunication on my part.
Cassandra, this is Derek. I'll be in Salem that day for a Oregon Trans Association board meeting and some legislative work. So I can pass that on to another member for that opportunity.
Great.
Thanks.
All right. And please email me if you're interested and we'll set you up with the RSVP. It's very exciting. Okay, with that, we're moving on to my last item, which is not up here. Gratitude for COBAC members. You all are an amazing group, and I just briefly wrote a very small sentence about that. Liz, for your courage in stepping into leadership, your curiosity in all things, and holding deep and meaningful space for our community. Thank you. Derek, for your tireless, I really enjoyed writing that pun so deeply. Efforts to make our transportation structures for equitable and accessibility for our community, stepping into your leadership role, and for serving in so many spaces in community, making time for COBAC. Thank you. Erin, for your advocacy for your daughter, the viewpoints you share, and deep love for family, and sharing your knowledge and experience with others. Amanda, for your knowledge and advocacy that you bring in your awesome basket purse to each meeting. I don't know if it's here today.
Switched out.
Anyways, it's this amazing basket for your energy, your passion, your credible efforts with diversibility. You pour into all of us and give us so much. So thank you. Carl, for such commitment and steadfast leadership for COBAC over the past year and 2 years when you're vice chair, for your leadership, advocacy, and commitment to the community and the community. Thank you. John, whether it's the unicorn of Greenwood or moving initiatives to better serve our community, your commitment is outstanding, and leadership in COBAC space has been so deeply appreciated. Thank you. Liz Dieter Martin, for your inquiry, curiosity, and wonder of learning, your view on accessibility with an amazing lens that benefits the community so tremendously, and your commitment to sharing accessibility with those around you and bringing our community's message to the whole of Bend. Thank you for that. To Stephanie. for how you show up in Koback and Coca, leading us all to be more inclusive and accessible, and for your deep love of family and advocating for your son and the work you do in your nonprofit space. Thank you. Whitney, for your enthusiasm, energy, tremendous idea generation, and being so instrumental to the success of the Koback Walk and Roll, and always advocating for accessibility in all spaces. You are always rolling up your sleeve, nay, pant leg, and making things happen. And Corey, for your steadfast leadership and commitment to this space, for the joy of sharing tremendous milestones over the past year with our group, and all you've given us this past 6 years. We are so deeply thankful. So on that note, round of applause. Yay for everyone. I'll turn it over, Liz, tremendous group you are, to the agenda setting.
Here. This is Liz, and let's go ahead and focus on agenda setting.
Yeah, this is John. This isn't necessarily for the January agenda, but I think it's really nice that James already pre-wrote a letter from us, which makes our job so much easier because then we don't have to come up from scratch. I noticed that the Franklin open house ends on January 7th, so I guess I would request that we could not necessarily vote on it right now, but I would like people to check out that letter from Koback over the next week or two and potentially vote on it over email, to be able to send that letter off to Eric King and to the Bend City Council if possible, just because of the deadline of the Franklin open house.
I think we may run into trouble voting over online. However, if there is anyone who would be interested in potentially using some of the language, or potentially Liz or Derek, if you'd like to be the author of something that either includes part of that language, but would really suggest some contemplation and looking into it, and potentially meeting with myself and other city staff in terms of what's been shared with James. I think that'd be great, but we can certainly offline about that, or put that onto a January meeting, because all of the 7 points that James brings up will be important considerations for any kind of infrastructure in terms of accessibility with the city. Thank you, John.
Yeah, and this is Derek. So yeah, regarding that letter, I mean, it's fairly technical. You know, I've been in the transportation planning world, and there's a lot of kind of new concepts in there that, you know, I'm not even aware of. And I was just kind of curious as to seeing if there's any kind of feedback or follow-up that we could get. I mean, I'm sure that, you know, some of those had to be left out because of price or cost, or it's just not feasible in this kind of project. So, you know, other than that, I would move forward with a letter, but, you know, looking at kind of what the alternatives are, and if that would suffice from an accessibility standpoint. I mean, I basically agree with it, but it's a lot of technical specifications in there that a lot of this group isn't familiar with. So I think that kind of letter coming from this, or maybe it could be paraphrased in a way that makes it a little more general, but I'm happy to support the concept. I'm happy that there's community members who are digging into this level of specificity on project design. I mean, that's really, to me, that's exciting. So I don't know, those are just kind of my overall thoughts, is learning a little bit more about kind of what those trade-offs were and that proposed design as to what, you know, this proposal alludes to.
Great. I mean, this is Liz. I think I would like to go back and just make a comment that reading it, yes, it's very technical. And I think for me, not having any knowledge of infrastructure, building, or anything like that, I kind of would like to see in this letter maybe some reference to like citing injury rates, particularly in those intersections, and just kind of looking at real life scenarios that have happened, to just, I don't know, add a layer into this letter. But I too am also happy to support this and try to push through as best as possible, as quickly as possible.
Yeah, and this is Derek. And so on that same subject, I would love to see like in future agendas, like having some of the folks who are working on this at the city come and talk to us about, you know, maybe when the designs are being developed or prior to them getting pushed out into an open house or during the open house public comment period. And, you know, I don't know if the timeline for this committee to weigh in on these things is subject to the timeline from the open house period, or if we're exempt to provide input later to staff, that would be, I think, having a little more time to do it and not being, you know, kind of part of that deadline for the general public, that maybe we get an exemption for that to explore it a little more and have regular check-ins with, I really like it when city staff comes and gives presentations on these important topics and we can ask questions and learn about what the projects are ahead of time. So, thanks.
Is it right if I add something?
Absolutely.
So I'm not sure if it's like would be appropriate for the meeting setting, but I'm kind of wondering if it might be possible for me to have maybe 2 or 3 minutes at the next meeting just to give kind of updates from campus or bring any questions from the disabled community on campus, because I know that they're not super involved in like city governance, but certainly use city facilities. And so I thought it might be a good opportunity to bring some youth voices into the accessibility conversations that we're having.
That'd be awesome.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I guess I want to reiterate the question on this letter. Like what it is technical, and I don't think we have enough time before January 6th. So is you know, and again, you know, is that our deadline? Do we get more time to respond? And certainly this person can send the letter in their own name. I'm not sure we should sign it unless we're sure we understand everything that's in there and condone everything. Even because, you know, some of the tactile things, how do those work with snowplows? You know, I think that's a fantastic idea, and something like that could be great. But if we're taking something that was developed in Australia or used in Australia, it might not work here, not all year round. So I really love, you know, that this person came to us with these ideas and with them written down. But I don't think I'm not sure we can sign them unless somebody else here feels qualified to say, yep, that's what we want to say as a committee. And sorry, this is Liz Deetha Martin.
Thank you, Liz.
All right, we're going to go ahead and move on to our next agenda item. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Carl for a moment of gratitude for Councilor Barb Campbell.
City Bend Accessibility Advisory Committee, KOBAC, hereby gratefully recognizes Bend City Council member Barb Campbell for her service to this committee and the Bend disability community. Throughout her 10 years of service on the City Council, Barb has been a strong advocate for disability rights and accessibility. Since becoming the council's regular liaison to the committee, she's been an active participant in KOBAC's affairs, often bringing important matters to our attention, filling us in on the city's affairs where they relate to disability and access, and inviting guests to attend KOBAC meetings and share information with us. Although we're saddened to know that Councillor Campbell will be leaving Koback upon the completion of her term in January, we urge her, don't be a stranger. We invite you to join us for future meetings as your schedule allows, and thank you for your years of service to this committee. With gratitude, the City of Bend Accessibility Advisory Committee. Thanks, Barb.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Barb.
Barb.
And with that, Councillor Campbell, would you like to give us an update? Yes.
Update on the last 10 years. So, you all have to, I mean, this is nothing at all like go back 10 years ago. It is really not. I could not agree more about further strengthening our relationship with COCA, with the Central Oregon Committee for Access. When I started, it was almost Hatfield and McCoy. The COCA was just, it was one thing, just a series of missteps and miscommunication and so much anger and frustration and lawsuits and the city trying to do what's required by the lawsuits. And honestly, I was thinking about how Corey, who has been here for 6 years, you know, I feel like, you know, maybe it really was when Corey kind of started that we're able to turn the corner. I believe that there are like two things that motivate people. One is anger, frustration, you know, that kind. And then the other is hope. When you have hope, it gives you a reason to work. And when Corey came on, I think that was kind of the beginning of this committee being a happier, more hopeful place. And instead of complaining about all the things that are not, the committee started digging into all the things that are possible. And I see that just with your strategic plan. That did not used to be the case. You know, it really did used to be so much updates from staff. Now we've kind of moved away from that, and now I think, we need more updates from staff on infrastructure projects in particular. That's still such an important part. But yes, COCA serves such an excellent role because it's all of Central Oregon. And I would just love to see you be able to strengthen that relationship and continue to move forward with hope that we can do better and we can work together. And remembering that, you know, I am temporarily able-bodied. Accessibility is the single issue that absolutely cuts through every other thing. And so you are doing the most important thing here, and you're doing such good work, and I'm so proud of you. And the last thing I will say, I just remember this just sitting over there. One day I remember this meeting, it was in the boardroom, and there's somebody from the John Day Fossil Beds National Monument. Do you remember that, Lisa? Yeah. And they were working on making more accessible displays at their museum. And they had an idea for a display for folks who are sight impaired. And they started looking around for a committee, for just some citizens that would be able to give them input on this thing that they were doing. And where did they find that committee? In Bend, you know, hundreds of miles away. You know, and I hope you will think about that that, you know, our hospital is not just a Bend hospital, it's an Eastern Oregon hospital. And, you know, on that day, I realized, wow, maybe we're, you know, the accessibility committee for all of Eastern Oregon. So I don't want to put more on you, but just, you know, to let you know how important it is what you're doing and how much I appreciate all of you. And then the last hopeful thing, because I know we're out of time, and Derek is going to back me up on this one. Wow, is there hope for our transit system? I don't know if you all know, but ODOT fumbled the football on like the 5-yard line. CET picked it up and is heading for the goal line. And what I mean by that is Bob Townsend is now the director of CET. Bob Townsend had been our Region 4 director for ODOT. This man knows everything about transportation planning, and he knows about transportation funding. I have, in 10 years, I have never heard a presentation like he gave to council last night. That man has ideas about absolutely everything, from the logo uses too many colors. We need to redesign our logo so it doesn't cost a fortune to just print everything. You know what I mean? To this, you know, type of bus stop is not working. We need to redesign them. So I am really hopeful. I think we're in such a great place. We've got such great new members coming on board. I'm so excited that we have a real connection with the Parks and Rec. And I'm just so proud of you all and just so honored to get to do a little bit of this. I can't think of what's more important than kids getting to school safely, than everybody being able to access their governments, everybody able to just live the life that they want to live. And that's what y'all are doing. So thank you so much. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Barb.
Barb,
Love you, Barb. Love you.
still our cheerleader.
I know.
Thank you, Barb, for being such an inspiration and a wealth of information to this group. And I hope that you pop in sometime and visit us.
I absolutely will. Yes, yes, thank you.
Well, I believe that concludes today's wonderful COBAC meeting. Our last meeting of 2024, and we look forward to COBAC's next meeting, Thursday, January 23rd, 2025, from 1:30 to 2:30. And if there's no other further COBAC business, the City of Bend Accessibility Advisory Committee for December 19th, 2024 is adjourned at 2:42.